any semblance of holiness.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new Village Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, a.k.a. Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chuck you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to Village Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all living here and above.
DC in the house.
With your host, JC, a.k.a. Afro Black. Here. Check it out.
Hey there, colonists, my name is King George. Will you give me money, pay the debt for the war? Hey there, colonists, my name is King George. Will you give me money, pay the debt for the war? No taxation without representation. Don't take my money if I don't have a say. No taxation without representation. Don't take my money if I don't have a say. Hey there, colonists. My name is King George. Will you give me money, pay the debt for the war? Hey there, colonists, my name is King George. Will you give me money, pay the debt for the war? No taxation without representation. Don't take my money if I don't have a say. No taxation without representation. Don't take my money if I don't have a say.
Hey, everybody. This is JC, a.k.a. Afro Black, here at the Village Round Table Talks. If you've bumped in, if you've chimed in, if you've happened to just stumbled up on my podcast, you've bumped into the all-new Village Round Table Talks. And I am your host with the most, your brother from another American Indian mother, JC, a.k.a. Afro Black, here to drop nothing but the raw and uncut here every other Sunday here on the Village Roundtable Talk. So I got a lot I want to talk about today, people. I got a lot I want to share today. You feel me? And I'm pretty sure you know what the podcast topic is about. So let me tone down everything and fade out my intro music and put in some background tunes right quick. Let me play this right here. I got something I wanna chime in on right here. Let me play this right here. You hear that there?
The world watching, they see us. Oh yeah, can you hear me now?
Everyone really cares about us. There you go. Michael Jackson in the backdrop. This is not Michael, it's a mix, you feel me? Let me start this show off by saying everything stated, everything's shown, everything that is done on this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Let me straighten up my microphone here. Is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So I do not monetize. I do not make money off my show. Everything I do is for the people, and it's for the fact that I want to share my, what I'm doing, my growth, my research, my study, my journey. I want to share with the people. That being said, I see there's somebody here in the village chat room. Let me and before I go any further, and everybody know what the podcast subject is about today. It's titled "Why Should We Vote?" Again, why should we, the American Indian? Why should we, the Niiji? Why should we, so-called Black Americans? Why should we participate in this so-called democratic voting process? That's what today's podcast topic is about. So let me see who's sitting here in the hello. This is JC a.k.a. Afro Black. I am here with you. Who's here in the village chat room? Are you just listening? You got something you want to say, or you want to just listen for a little while and then comment? I'm right here. Can you hear me? Hello. Let me see.
Yes,
Okay. Can you hear me, ma'am?
yes.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear. I want you to know everybody else can hear you too. Nobody can see you, but they can hear you. So, you got anything you want to share before I start the podcast or before I start the subject matter?
Is there a way I can hit a mute button? I don't see it on my end.
What would you like to mute?
Well, I mean, there is thundering and lightning in my background, so I just wanted to mute that out.
Oh, I can't hear it. I can hear you. I don't hear no thundering and anything like that. The only person I can hear is you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I am glad to have you here. I appreciate you joining us here on the Village Roundtable Talk. Anything you want to share before I continue?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll be back with you in a little bit. All right. Let me continue the subject matter here. Okay, people. Again, today's subject matter is titled, Why Should We Vote? Okay. Now, I was supposed to start this topic matter last Sunday, but I informed everybody I had to postpone. The show last Sunday due to the fact that I had my grandson over and I spent my time with my grandson. And as a result, I was not able to put together my monologue like I wanted to do. And so I got my monologue together and I kind of rushed it. You feel me? I kind of rushed putting my monologue together, but I got it together. But outside my monologue, I still got other things I want to share. So let me put up my monologue right quick. Whenever I do a monologue, I want to show everybody what I've done and what I'm talking about because I have things on my mind before the show about the topic matter, and so I have to write these things down so I don't forget. I have things that I want to share that's on my heart as well. So let me bring that up right quick. Alrighty. Let me put this up right quick for everybody to see. All right. Again, this is my monologue right here. And again, as you see, it's called Why Should We Vote? And when I say we, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm not talking about white Americans. I'm not talking about Asian Americans. I'm talking about the American Indian. I'm talking about the brown brothers and the so-called black brothers. You feel me? Yes, I'm talking about Latinos too. There are brown brothers. You feel me? Why should we vote in a system that does not listen to us, a system that does not represent us, a system that does not adhere to our issues, things that are detrimental that are happening to the so-called black and brown community? So some of the things that I want to share with you are some of the things that was on my heart, on my mind about this subject matter. It's right here on paper. Okay. So let me share this right quick. Again, why should we vote? Huh? My Niiji people. For me to vote, for me, myself personally, and I am a registered voter. I used to participate in the voting process, but it weighed in on my heart. Every time I did it, I felt bad about doing it. The reason why, because number one, I felt like it was a waste of my time. Why? Because the issues that I see that are afflicting, that are oppressing, that are detrimental to the so-called Black community is not being dealt with. It is not being, it's not being resolved by anyone. People, brothers and sisters at a young age are still being shot and killed by corrupt cops. Brothers and sisters at a young age are still having to deal with killing one another due to gang violence, murder rap. Young mothers are still getting pregnant at a young age. Unemployment is still rampant and high in the so-called Black community. That hasn't been resolved either. Home ownership is still at an all-time low in the so-called Black community. Everybody else buying homes. Everybody else is able to buy homes, but very few American Indians, a.k.a. so-called Black Americans, are able to have access to buying or purchasing or mortgaging a home. See, to get, so these are just a few of the issues that I want to address. Again, why should we vote? For me to vote again, there needs to be serious changes to our democratic political system first. Specifically, 3 changes, in my opinion, need to take place that need to be worked on among many that needs to be done. But when politicians are only working for certain groups of people and not at all for Americans, and leave out certain ethnic groups while lying to us just to gain our votes, and only listening to special interest groups, while most only listening to special interest groups with the most money and not the needs of the people. Why should we vote? Do you hear me, people? Why should we vote? I say this because Democrats, I'm not going to call them Democrats, I'm going to call them Democrats, are criticizing right now. They're criticizing so-called Black and brown people. They're criticizing. I've heard them on the news, on political television, like MSNBC, criticizing so-called Black and brown people in their communities. For what? Not registering to vote. And those who are registered are criticized for not going down and placing their ballot. Why? Because voting registration for the Democrat Party is at an all-time low. So now they're concerned. They're concerned. Just like they made this woman, and now she's trying to act like she cares about the so-called Black and brown community. When everybody know Biden's VP, since she's been VP for 4 years under him, she's done nothing. She said nothing. As a matter of fact, when she said something, she said she wasn't going to just do anything for so-called Black people. So why would we vote for her? Nobody voted for her. Nobody voted for her when he made her his VP, and nobody voted for her to be the so-called Democratic primary president to run for office. Nobody. So basically, no other Democrat can run against her, because they've made her the primary person to be the leading person for the Democrat Party. Now, somebody might be saying, why do you care, JC? You're not going to vote. I care because so many of my people are wasting their time with a system that doesn't represent us as a people. When you look at the system, when you look at what's going on, okay, when you look at how Latinos do have a representative, there's many Latino politicians out there. There's many so-called Black politicians out there. But the question is, do they represent their constituents? Do they represent their constituents? And if they do, who are their constituents? Because they don't represent the constituents of the so-called Black and brown community. They're not doing anything. All your major cities, from New York to Chicago, to Los Angeles have so-called black mayors. What are they doing? What are they doing to help so-called black and brown people get fair justice with a justice system that makes sure that the numbers, when it comes to the populace in the prison system, is populated with black and brown people? Doesn't matter. It can be for the smallest crime. It can be a false crime, meaning that you get allegations that are against you that are not true, and they'll still lock you up. What about the system itself? What are these representatives who say they claim that they represent the so-called black and brown community? What are they doing to repair the system so that we can have a fair, so things can be fair for us? What about the corrupt cops? You know, about right now, you got the Democrats rallying right now, asking people to, make sure you don't forget what Martin Luther King's march was about. The march, the Selma March, huh? The March of 1965, the Selma March. They talking about that was for voting. Was it really for voting? Do anybody know the real history behind the Selma March, which originally was called, or later on was called, Bloody Sunday? I'm gonna talk about that. Okay, because I want you to know that's another reason why I have a problem with the Democrat Party. They constantly are misrepresenting us, controlling the narrative rather than giving a true narrative of what's going on in the so-called black and brown community, or what's going on, or what happened in the past. They want to use it for their agenda rather than tell the truth. So again, why should we vote? Why should we vote? Why should we? Let me take the heads. I can't take. Let me take my headphones off right for a little bit. Why should we vote? Again, let me get to them. The three things I believe that we need to work on to start. This is just my opinion. This is just my opinion about why we should or shouldn't vote. And as it stands right now, I don't believe so-called black and brown people, specifically American Aborigines, should be participating in this corrupt political process. The first thing that we need to do, if there's going to be change that's going to benefit not just certain specific groups, not just certain specific ethnic groups, because when you look at politics, the only people I see that politics actually benefit, to be real with you, is the so-called white American community and the Asian community. I don't see it benefiting nobody else. And when I say the so-called white American community, I'm talking about any ethnic group that falls in the category of white American. And as we know, anybody who immigrates out here or come out here and visit from another country, from African to an Italian, are considered white by law. So again, the three things I believe that we need to work on, the things that are not being worked on, the things that should be worked on, that's going to benefit everybody. Okay, because nothing benefits us that doesn't benefit other people anyway, even though it should only benefit us. But we're talking about the democratic process. We're talking about the voting process, rather or not, why we should not participate in the voting process. Why, rather not, why we should or should not be registering. From my perspective, yes, I don't speak for nobody but myself, but I'm going to express why I don't believe my people should be participating in a corrupt political process that doesn't benefit us. Number one, as you see here, political representation. Every community in America needs a voice in this system of Congress. I say in the system of Congress because, of course, we all need a voice in the government, period. But we're talking about the voting process. And whenever you're talking about the voting process, that has everything to do with the president, has everything to do with senators, has everything to do with Congress. So again, and I'm not just talking about the presidential vote. I'm even talking about voting on initiatives that has to do locally and federally. You feel me? We need political representation, and we don't have it. We don't have it. I don't give a damn that this brother says I'm a black American or I'm an African American. The question is, who are your constituents? Who do you answer to? Who do you answer to? Who are you working on behalf of? Because if you're working on behalf of the so-called black community, why don't any of our issues, any of the things that we voice, I don't hear it on television. I don't hear any of them on MSNBC, CNN, or even Fox 40. When they're on those channels, they don't be talking about anything that has to do with the so-called black and brown community. You know what they want to talk about? Everybody's heard it before. They want to talk about women's right, the woman's right, rather if she has the right to make a decision, rather if she wants to get an abortion or not. I don't believe. I mean, constantly recycling old stuff that does not impact the so-called black community. Recycling things. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't impact the so-called black community from a female's perspective, because in my opinion, we should not even be talking about speaking on taking any woman's rights away on the decision on what she does to her body. So that shouldn't even be an issue in 2024 or 2025, but it is. They recycle the same crap. Taxes, raising taxes, lowering taxes. And every time they raise or lower, the only people who benefit from that is corporation and the elitists. It does not trickle down and help the middle class, and neither does it specifically doesn't help and benefit the so-called black and brown community. So me being a brown brother, I'm speaking from the perspective, okay? I'm speaking from the perspective that I don't see anything in Congress. I don't see anything in government. I don't see anything from any president since I've been living that benefits the so-called black and brown community due to us voting. So the question is, why should we vote? The second thing that needs to be done, delegates. I'm not sure if anybody looked into this. I've looked into this and it's ridiculous. When it comes to the president, we don't have anything to do with who's chosen when it comes to the president. Now, I know that's easy to say. There's another thing to show it, and I can show it to you. But I'm going to tell you right now, just to explain it to you in brief. The super delegates are the ones who choose the president. You say super delegates. Yes, there are super delegates and there's delegates. You got regular delegates. The regular delegates, they're not super. They're called delegates. That has everything to do with the primaries. And if you know anything about the primaries is about them going around during their candidacy, rallying, going to state to get as many votes as they can from state to state. And whoever wins, I mean, prime example, if a candidate does not win California, and California has 55 delegate votes, Texas has 77 delegate votes. And I'm only mentioning Texas and California because out of all the states in our union, Texas and California has the most delegate votes. So when it comes to the delegate votes, those delegates take those votes. Oh, excuse me. Let me say that correctly. The electoral college, which is under those delegates take those electoral college votes, and whoever wins California, prime example, say a candidate gets 30 college electoral votes, and the opposing candidate gets 20. Well, the person who got 30 gets his 20, and so he gets all 30 electoral college votes, and all those electoral college votes are tallied together for the primary so they can make a decision who's going to be the candidate to run for president. I'm talking about specifically each political group, like the Republicans do their thing and the Democrats do their thing, and they have their primary and they pick their candidate. If it's like 2 or 3 candidates running for president, that's breaking it down. I don't even care to do that but I'm doing it to let you understand the delegate system, for when it comes to delegates, has nothing to do with us. Now, when it comes to the primaries, we have a little bit more say in that, but still and yet they can choose whoever they want to choose. Has nothing to do with us. And when it comes to the primary, if the super delegates don't like what's going on, they'll override the regular delegates and still choose who they want to be the primary person that's going to run for president against the opposing party. So again, what does it have to do with us? Why is it important for people to vote when it's a select group of people? And to be honest with you, and to be more specific about who these delegates are, they're chosen from groups like judges, lawyers, retired political officials. Prime example, Bill Clinton is a longtime super delegate. You feel me? So these are the people who are overvoting us. Okay, They need to get rid of and revamp the system. Before I can vote, they need to revamp the system. The third thing that needs to be done, a two-party system, which we got, which is ridiculous. We got a two-party system. Now, at one time, we go back to the early 19th century, we had more, there was more people. We got other groups today, but they're overlooked. They're not acknowledged. And when it comes to where the money is distributed for these parties, all the money goes to the two parties that they want to be the main parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. You heard me. The Republicans, I can't do anything. And the Democrats, who are crappy and don't do nothing. So why should we vote? Not only do we have a jacked up system that needs to be revamped and fixed, but again, the main thing and number one out of the three subject matters I just mentioned, we don't have political representation. When you look at the Asian ethnic group in our country, the Asian Americans, as a result of their political representation, look what they got done. When Asian people were being assaulted, being beat up, and being, during COVID, they quickly created a bill, voted it in to criminalize anybody attacking Asians. But so-called Black Americans are being killed every day. We just had a sister just be killed in her home. A sister killed in her home, calling a cop for help because somebody was around her home. And he deleted her. He deleted her. We had a sister just die just over this past week. She was deleted for calling for help. So the question is, why should we vote? Why should we vote, people? Is it benefiting us to vote? Who is it benefiting? Because it ain't benefiting us. So let me go back to my monologue. As it stands, we don't have real change or real representation. And real change starts with our democratic system to be overhauled into a system for the people, by the people. There you go, right there. So let me as I put my headset back on. So people, we need real, not fake, not actors, not Hollywood actors. We need real political representation. As I said again, no put down, I have no negative feelings towards Asians. I'm glad they got representation. They got real political representation in office. I mean, I've never seen a bill move so fast and so quickly through the House and the Senate and was passed to protect Asian Americans from being assaulted. And I agree, it should have, they need protection too, because they shouldn't have been assaulted. But what about all the so-called Black Americans, all the so-called Mexican Americans that's been assaulted, killed, tortured, deleted from life due to their ethnicity? Police officers going above and beyond to hurt somebody for whatever personal reason, for whatever personal agenda, for whatever issue he's dealing with, whatever race issue that person has, is going on and nothing is being done about it. So again, why should we vote when we have no protection, real protection under the law? We have no real voice in Congress. We have no real political representation in the Senate or in the House. So vote for what? That's the question. Again, I ask this question only for all who are my Niiji American Indians and to so-called Black Americans in the Black American community, and to all who believe so-called Black Americans should have the responsibility due to the civil rights movement, and to many who were killed and gave their lives for the cause and were beaten and killed for their descendants to have the right to walk the street and to participate in a so-called democratic process. If this is the case, then everybody, we must believe, those who believe that must believe that every American should have the same equal rights under our written constitution to be treated equally under the law. But we, the Niiji, the American Indian and so-called Black American, Black and brown people, are still fighting for equal rights as law enforcement violates our basic human rights every day somewhere in America, as most go unreported. As we, the so called Black and Brown communities, continue without true and honest representation from any Republican or Republican or Democrat candidate to politically represent and stand on the side of the poor and the voiceless in our country. Who are the voiceless in America, you may ask? They are the poor, the so called Black and Brown Americans, a.k.a. urban Indians living in the city and on every ghetto and reservation near you in every major city in America. We the people, huh? Isn't that what it's written in? We the people. Was it written and mentioned in the Constitution for a good reason, or was it really written and predicated on a system of select few benefiting and controlling over 90% of our country's wealth and the people's pocket? Now, if this doesn't sound like modern day slavery being done right in front of our faces, then what exactly is it? Huh? We the people. Huh? We the people is representative of the American people and populace as a whole. But even more importantly, it represents each and every political party and political representative in general, from every branch of government, from the House of Congress to the Senate, and every local district councilman who represents their constituents on behalf of we the people. Today, this is not being represented or exemplified by our government or our elected political officials on any level in this. This leads to my next question. Again, delegates and super delegates, which I've already talked about, the second thing that needs to change. There can't ever and will never be without a sense of integrity and transparency. We'll never have, in other words, we'll never have we the people, because we the people also exemplifies a sense of unity. We'll never really have we the people. Why? Without a sense of integrity and transparency. I want to raise the question, why should we vote? Why should we vote in the presidential primaries? Huh? When the presidential primaries are decided by delegates and not the people, not the populace. Why should we vote when the presidential candidacy is solely decided and predicated on a group of super delegates and not we the people? But by a handful of a few specifically pre-chosen people that trumps the vote of every voter of everyone else in America. In short, a group of people called super delegates chosen by who? Who they're chosen by? Because they're not chosen by the populace. They're not chosen by the American public. Who are these delegates chosen by? Huh? But they have and are given absolute voting power, no matter the popular vote of the populace. We the people. Huh? It's the super delegates that really chooses the president nominee to be, not the populace. Uh-huh. So there you go, people. That's my monologue. Huh? That's my monologue. This was on my heart over the weekend. I had to jot this down, didn't want to forget it. Do you feel me? But I asked why. Huh? Why? I ask, is this democracy? If so, then the most corrupt form of democracy to manipulate the American voter and give real voting power to a select few of so-called super delegates to determine the presidential choice on whose behalf? Huh? Who are they doing it for? Because they're not doing it for the populace. They do it in secret. So that being said, I'm pretty sure anybody who heard the intro to my show, it started out with a little intro saying, no taxation, no representation. Well, where'd that come from? That was something that was said in the 16th century? Huh? When the so-called European Americans revolted against the European crown in Europe, huh? Titled under what is called the Indian and French War, a 7-year war. And for some reason, as these guys were expanding and taking control of Indian country through war, they took out the time to fight the French, to fight their so-called fellow brothers, fighting over a land that wasn't even theirs. Huh? So as a result, they rebelled against the crown and said, because the crown was raising taxes on European Americans to collect money to pay for the war. Now, you got to realize the war that they're talking about they were paying for was not just the war that the so-called white European Americans were having against the French to fight for control of certain areas, specifically, the Appalachian area at that time. But it was also, they were funding and paying for the wars that they were fighting against our ancestors, the American Indians, to take the land. And the European Americans didn't want to pay that debt to the crown. Matter of fact, they didn't want anything to do with the crown. It was like, look, they didn't want to give this land that they were taking and fighting and killing Indians and even losing their own lives to, and then turn around and give it to the European crown. No, they changed their mind and said, no taxation, no representation. So I'm saying that we have no representation. So why vote? When it comes to taxes, we don't have too much of a choice. No, we don't. That comes out no matter where you work at, no matter who you're working for, no matter if you're a business owner and you got your own business, taxes are coming out either way it go, or you have, you have their tax pimps coming after you, the IRS. I call them the tax pimps. Okay? So that being said, taxes have been organized and strategized to a degree that you can't get away from taxes. But the thing about it, why should we vote in a system that does not recognize, does not realize, and does not care enough to make a change? Huh? Let me go back to what Michael was saying right here. Here we go.
They see us. Oh yeah. Can you hear me now? America. Like Pac said, you might fight against each other. But I promise you this. Yeah.
You hear what Michael say? He said the government don't want to see. Michael knew what was going on. Huh? Michael knew what was going on. It's us who don't see what's going on. Huh? So the question is, if somebody say, what is the solution, JC? Huh? What is the solution? You know what? Before I go into what I believe the solution is, let me see. You know what? You got some so-called Native Americans out there who are politicians. You got Native American politicians out there. Let me see. Let me pull this up right quick. Okay. Oh, here I got it already right here. I already got it right here. Yeah, let me put this up right quick. Let me put this up right quick. Like I say, I mean, it's really sad. I think we only got so-called 6 so-called Native American representatives. You see them right there. Here we go. This right here is taken from, as you see right here, 6 native politicians currently serving in Congress. Okay, we got one right here. Her name. What's her name? Deb Haaland, Democrat for the 54th United States Secretary of the Interior. Born in Winslow, Arizona, Deb Haaland served as state's vote director for the Native American during Obama's 2012 campaign, and as chair of the Democratic Party. Wow, what has she done? Huh? You can look and see that, she looks like a Native American, okay? I didn't say she looked like an American Aboriginal Indian. I said she looks Native American, all right? What has she done? Huh? The reservations are terrible, huh? Poverty-stricken. I've seen some studies on some Native American reservations, and, I was born and raised in South Central LA. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, General Hospital, LA, raised in the projects, Jordantown projects in South Central LA. And when you go to some of these reservations, it reminds me like you in the hood. In the hood. So what is she doing? What is she doing to help the Native Americans on the reservation? All right, let's go on down here. Here's another one, okay? Her name, Sharice Sharice Davids, born in West Germany. She wasn't even born here. Sharice Davis was raised by a single mother and worked her way from Johnson County Community College to Cornell Law School, all the while juggling multiple jobs. And in 2016, she worked as a White House fellow in the Department of Transportation during the transition between Obama and Trump administrations. What is she doing? Huh? What is she doing? Huh? What's going down here? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I know y'all see this man right here, Tom Cole. I've seen him before. He ain't no Native American. What the hell? No, this man is not. I'm not being a bigot. I'm not a bigot. I'm opposed to bigotry and racism, but this is not a Native American. I don't give a care if he had. He definitely not half, so he's not a biracial Native American. Let me move on, okay? We know he ain't doing nothing. We know he ain't doing nothing. Let me read his stuff just for the sake that I read everybody else's. Tom Cole was born in, he's born in the same place my grandma's from. My grandmother's from Shreveport, Louisiana. I got family in Shreveport, Louisiana. Tom Cole was born in Shreveport, Louisiana. He was a former college instructor teaching history and politics and has earned a BA and an MA and a PhD from Grinnell College, Yale University, and the University of Oklahoma. Cole is serving his 10th term in the U.S. Yeah, 10th term. My goodness. And what has he done? He ain't doing nothing for the reservation. Oh, my. These guys are considered Native American representatives. Real talk. And I'm going to tell you, he's not a Native American, and he's not a Native American. And she's not. Oh, my goodness. Look, I'm not even finna finish this, okay? Because this is ridiculous. Where are the Indians at? I see a possible two sitting right here. Possible. The question is, wow. You know what? This kind of reminds me of one time. I just took that off. Get off the screen. Kind of reminds me when I was in the supermarket one day with my wife. I'm in a supermarket now. I'm wheelchair bound. I can't walk like a normal person, so I have an electric wheelchair. I have what is called osteodegenerative arthritis in both my legs and in my hip. So my mobility of walking around is very it's messed up. I can't really walk around like I want, like a normal person. So that being said, I'm in a chair. I'm in one of those chairs, supermarket chairs, in the line with my wife. And this white man comes up in his chair next to me. He sees my jewelry that my wife makes this. My wife makes this by her hands. All this is done. My wife's done, hand done, all this. Okay. So my wife, and he saw this on my neck, and he was admiring it. And I told my wife made it. And he said, you're Native American? I said, I'm American Indian. He said, oh, me too. Now I'm looking at this white man, okay? White as snow, okay? And I said, oh, you are? He said, yeah. I said, you know what? I don't believe Indians are white. He said, well, my great-grandmother was Native. So I'm saying, just your grandmother? See, that's the thing. You got a lot of these so-called white Americans who want to claim that they're Native. And you got to understand, if you look at the history, it's understandable why they're doing this. You had many poor Europeans who came here, not just during this time of Ellis Island. We're talking about even on back further than that, to the 17 and the 1800s. They were coming here. And when they came here, they cut off their family in Europe. So can you imagine a great-great-great-grandmother or a great-great-great European grandfather who comes here? And when he comes here, he's cut off from his family in Europe. So he starts really literally fresh here to plant a family and to build a family here. So now you're in the 20th, 21st century, and the only thing you know is here. You don't know nobody in Europe. So a lot of them took on Indian identities. Everybody know this. This is not a secret. This is not a hidden fact. So again, why should we be voting in a system with no real representation, no real political representation for the true Indian, for the real Indian? Huh? And so we can easily find out who the Indians are, because the Indians don't have any family transporting from anywhere else. If you got a great-great-grandfather who, like my wife is biracial. She's half Indian, American Indian, and she's half white. My wife is half white. Her father is an American Indian, a brother. Okay. And her mother, came from Norway. The white side of my family, the white side of my wife's family came from Norway. Okay. So my point is this. My wife had no problem tracing her family. Why? Because her mother and her grandmother, when my wife did her own research on her family, which we did a research on my family, my family tree as well, and my wife found the first relative who came to the American shores on her white side of her family. But when it came to her American Indian side of her family, her father, all the Indians were only here. Nobody from outside this country. So why should we be voting for a system that doesn't benefit us? Even when it comes to our American Indian heritage and culture, they're not trying to help us. They want us to leave that behind and let it go and assimilate. It seems like to me the agenda that was going on in the 18th century, the agenda that was going on in the 19th century, in the 17th century, is still going on today. They're not helping the American Indian. They're not helping the American urban Indian. So what political representation do we have? These guys right here. She's not trying to help nobody. Who's she helping? This woman has been in office since 2012. She's been in office since 2012. And what has she done that we can see? On what reservation and for what urban Indians has she helped? Who is she helping? Huh? That's what I'm talking about. We need real political representation, and we don't have it. We don't have it, people. So the question is, that's what we need to do. We need to create real political representation that's going to benefit us. Now, let me see. I got an article. Check this article out. I want to read this article, just a little bit of it. I got this article that I found interesting. Okay, here it is right here. Okay. Let me blow this up some more. Now, if you're wondering what this is an article that was written by a number of women. Okay, by Kelly. So I believe one of them, I think Debbie Walsh, Carol, she's a politician. Some of them are into politics. Some of them are from law schools who put this article together. And you see it's titled Representation Matters. Now, of course, it says women in the U.S. Congress, but it's still representative of what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's why I chose to read this article. So I'm gonna go down here where I want to read it. Representation and motivation. Now, I'm only going to read some of it. I'm not going to read it all. I'll probably just read. I don't even want to read this part, but I'm going to read it anyway. Representation and motivation. Okay. Representation is a primary responsibility of any member of Congress. Did you hear that? Representation is the primary responsibility of any member of Congress. First and foremost, voters send officials to Washington to act on their behalf and enact policies that will further their interest. Did you hear that? In other words, that will benefit them. First, a senator. A congressman in office, their first initiative as a congressman, as a senator, is representation. Is representation is the primary responsibility of any member of Congress. Their first and foremost is the voters who sends officials to Washington to act on their behalf and enact policy that will further their interests. Who's doing that for the so-called black and brown community? I'd like to know who. Like some of these so-called black congressmen who used to walk the streets with Martin Luther King. I'm not gonna name his name. I believe he's the mayor of Chicago. Some of them are gone, some of them are still here. Jesse Jackson, who I'm so glad he got out of politics trying to run for office. He's a mess. They're not doing it. They're not doing anything on behalf of so-called black and brown people. No, they're not. So when these so-called black congressmen, they're only thinking about their own interests, not the interests of their constituents. And if they do think of their constituents, it's the constituents with the biggest pockets. So again, representation is primarily the responsibility of any member of Congress. First and foremost, voters send officials to Washington to act on their behalf and enact policy that will further their interests in order to develop a more comprehensive understanding of how, now this is for women, I'm gonna just say how American members of Congress perceive their representational responsibilities. Did you hear that? In order to develop a more comprehensive understanding of how Americans, I'm not going to say women, American members of Congress perceive their representational responsibilities. They talking about women again. We asked women, talking about political women, we interviewed whether in addition to representing her district as a whole, there are particular people or interests inside or outside her district that she feels a commitment to work on behalf in Congress. In their answers to this question, along with additional information they provided over the course of their interview, women members cite three primary motivations behind their representational behavior: district-based interests and demands, personal experiences and identities, and being a voice for the voiceless. Now, you would think that this would be the first, a voice for the voiceless. But he says district-based interests and demands. Now, the question is, what district are they representing? Like this woman right here. Whose interests are they representing? Her and her. I'm not even gonna deal with them because we already know what they're doing. We already know what they're doing, I ain't talking about them. We talking about the ones who are more Indian than the rest of the other three down there. Her and her. Who are they representing? Well, they didn't tell us what district she's from. They didn't. Born in Germany. She's not even born here in the U.S. She ended up in Obama's administration. But what district does she represent? First openly LGBT Native American elected to Congress. So she is an LGBT representative. She's not representing any reservation, no poor community. No, she represents the LGBT community. That's who elected her, and that's who she represents. Her right here. She was under Obama's administration. Who did she represent? Who was her constituents? She's from women elected to 2-year term at the chair of the Democratic Party of New Mexico. Okay, she's oh my god! Again, people, again, it's all about representation. We don't have it. I was talking what I was reading about hers, and hers. These two people right here who are the closest to what you might want to consider Native American, because this man is not a Native American, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion, he is not neither is he, neither is she, and neither is he. Neither one of these people, none of them. I said three. I said these are four of them. The only ones that's any close to considered a real Native American would be her and her. And she's representing the LGBT community. That's who put her in office. Okay. Why I'm saying that, I'm pretty sure they funded her candidacy and was backing her big time. And her, okay, she's from Arizona, but she represents New Mexico. All right. But what is she doing for what group of people? Who is her constituents? And this is the thing, people. We need political representation to have a political voice in Congress. And the so-called black and brown people, we don't have it. They want us to go out and vote. They want to use us. They want to use us to gain the vote, to get the popular vote, which don't have any power when it comes to the presidency. If any power it has, it's on the local level. Okay? Basically, people, we got to wake up. Huh? Let me listen to Michael Jackson again.
News anchors, everybody in the trenches. You know, the world watching, they see us. Oh yeah, can you hear me now? America, like Pac said, you might fight against each other.
You heard it, man. Michael Jackson knew what was going on.
Yeah.
He said the government don't want to see.
You know what?
Boy, I miss that brother. I miss Michael. That man could sing. He had a heavenly voice. I miss the brother. Okay, but he knew what was going on before he left here. He knew what was going on. Not only with the music business, Michael knew what was going on with politics. He was a very intelligent young man. Well, not a young man. He was a very, very intelligent man. He was definitely not a young man when he left here. Okay. So again, people, the basic thing of what we need, in my opinion, here we go again. We need, and we might not have the power to change the system because we don't, but we do have the power to have political representation to help us in our communities. And it's going to start with political representation. Every community in America needs a voice in the system of Congress. And for that to happen, we have to have somebody literally understand somebody from our community. Yes. Somebody from the urban community. Not these not these people who are brown nosing to keep a position in office. Not these people who are brown nosing each other to keep money in their pocket. And you know what? And next thing you know, they're being bought by lobbyists, bought by special interest groups. No, we're not talking about anybody like that. We're talking about somebody who's going to stand the course, somebody who's going to stand for the people, stand for the voiceless, stand for the poor, stand for the black, so-called black and brown and the American Indian people and our community. That's what we need, people. That's what we need, people. We got to start gearing our children to go to college and get law degrees, so they can represent their community, those who want to go into office. Because if they don't do this and we don't gear our children to remind our children of who they are and who they represent and not to forget who they are and not to forget where they came from, guess what? If they become politicians, they get bought. They get bought, people. They don't represent their people. They don't represent their constituents. They represent special interest groups who line their pocket and keep them paid to do what they want them to do. That's what's going on, people. Now, going into my next subject matter that I wanted to talk about, okay? And I really don't have the time for it. I need to continue this to the weekend after next to a part 2. But what I want to talk about, if I go into it, I want to talk about so-called Bloody Sunday and political unity. I want to go into that because I noticed that every year during the time of election and people running for office and people running for candidacy, you got the Democrats trying to weigh on the shoulders of so-called hardworking, so-called Black Americans to vote for the purpose of a party that don't represent nobody of color. And they constantly are using the Selma thing. Come on, they made a movie called Selma. You feel me? But I want you to know the March of 1965, which was called Bloody Sunday. Why was it called Bloody Sunday? Because it was that march where you see the water being sprayed on the people. You see the dogs being sicked on people, people being beat by state troopers. This, they literally broke the march up. And I want you to know, people got killed. Well, but I want you to know there was actually a march before this, before Bloody Sunday, before the Selma March. There was a march going on. And that march is what started the 1965 Selma March. And it had nothing to do. The Selma March originally, when it was put together, it had nothing to do with voting rights. That was secondary. Originally, it was a march for justice due to police brutality. But guess what? Somebody changed that. Somebody made it all about voting. But that's not what the Selma March was originally for. The Selma March was originally for justice because of police brutality, because so-called Black and brown brothers and sisters were being killed, beat, and harassed by police and state police. And so that's what the march was about. But for some reason, when the march got broke up by state troopers, when the march and people was being brutalized, after the march was over, they changed what it was about. They made it specifically about voting. Somebody did that. So I'm going to talk about that next week. You feel me? Now, the Sunday after next. I'm gonna conclude this. So I'm trying to keep my show down to an hour, people. Trying to keep my show down to an hour. So that being said, I'm gonna end this session. But before I end it, I must play this.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.
I had to throw that in there. The reason why, boy, when Kendrick put that together, I mean, I don't know what was speaking to his heart, and I know he just put the lyrics. I know his DJ Mustard did the music, but when they put that together, something was going on. Let me.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.
So, and that's real talk. They not like us, and they know it. And this is the reason why they do what they do. This is the reason why they don't give us a voice in office. This is the reason why they make sure we don't have any political representation, because they not like us and they know it. This is the reason why they spend all their time making sure that they don't help us be who we really are, but kind of mar us in a pit of absence, in a pit of the abyss, giving us an identity that has no legal status, labeling us an identity that has no legal status. They know why they're doing what they're doing, people. So that being said, again,
they not like us. 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 They not like us.
So I just had to play that. I actually played that low. Let me turn it up some more.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.
So that being said, I got to get out of here. I will be back next weekend. I just had to throw that up there. I want people to know that we got to have a real voice in this country, to have any type of voice in this country, in government, in Congress. We have to have political representation, and we don't have that. And I think that's what they were afraid of when they were knocking off the leaders in the 60s, when they were killing our political leaders, our civil rights leaders. When they were killing the leaders, they were afraid of them taking office, making real change, becoming politicians to make change. You see, our government moves real fast when it wants to. Like I said, when it came to the Asian people being assaulted, they quickly, that was the fastest bill I've ever seen move through Congress and the House and get signed. Everybody signed it. The question is why? I'm going to tell you why. Because the Asian people have and got political representation. Now, somebody might say, well, they're respected because, many of the Asians in our country are business owners. That's true. Many of them are business owners. They stick together too. They help each other as well. And that's something we have to learn to do, people. We got to go back to the times when we had love for each other. We got to go back to the times we had a sense of unity and family. We had a sense of community. When was those last times? That was during the 1960s and the 50s. Last times I can remember. Now, I'm born in the 1960s, but as a kid growing up, I can remember a sense of love, a sense of family, a sense of unity. I see a comment right here, and I want to ignore my comments right there, okay? So, people, we got to have real political. I know you got some out there saying that if you're not going to vote, you shouldn't be involved at all. No, I'm saying before we vote, we need to make sure we got political representation. We got to make sure the people we're voting for represent our issues, represent our political issues, represent and going to actually enact and stand for us and do for those who they represent. Right now, nobody represent us in Congress. Nobody represent us in the Senate. Nobody is speaking on our behalf. Somebody spoke up real quick and real fast for the Asian community when they were being beat up and battered and hurt, during COVID. And you had all these people just assaulting and beating up and hurting Asian people. So whoever represented them moved real fast. I'm pretty sure a lot of those Asian people who they represent, not everybody, a lot of Asian people don't vote. I'm going to say it again. A lot of Asian people don't vote. But you know what? They stand together and work together in their communities and in their businesses. And out of respect, obviously, white Americans respect that. But you know what? The Asian community also didn't go through what we went through in the 1960s, in the 1950s, in the 1940s, in the 1930s, in the 18th and 17th century. They didn't go through what our people went through. A transition of divide and conquer. We have to change that, people. We have to change that. Okay? That being said, I'm going to get out of here. And before I go, though, sister, anything you might want to say while you was listening? Anything you might want to add to what I was saying? Miss Mitchell, are you there? Hello? Okay, I see her there. I don't know if she might have left the phone. Well, I gotta go. That being said, people, I'm out of here. I'm trying to make sure I keep my show down to an hour and not go over that due to the fact that I got things I got to do. I got research I got to do. I got places I got to go. Even though I'm wheelchair bound, I still like to do things. So if the person in the chat room ain't got nothing to say, I'm going to close down my chat in a little bit unless this Miss Mitchell got something she might want to say. Anybody in the chat room want to say anything? Because I see you sitting in the chat room. Okay, I'm going to turn this off then. All right, people. I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate it. Let me take these headphones off. Well, I can't take them. I got to hear what I got doing right now. Let's see. All right, people, I got to get out of here. I got things I got to do. Again, I'm going to do a part 2 to this about why should we vote? And in the process of talking about why should we vote, the question is why we shouldn't vote. Because I don't see no reason why we should. I see a whole lot of reasons of why we shouldn't vote. And it's not just based on the fact that it's easy for somebody to say it's a waste of time. But it's another thing to break down why we shouldn't vote. It is a waste of time because we have no political representation in the government, in the Senate, in the House. We have no I don't care if the person is brown and copper colored. Who do they represent? What constituents they represent? That's the question. Barack Obama pawned things off as if he represented the people by talking about how he was a grassroots lawyer helping it. But who did he put in the forefront and show that stood up and say, yeah, he helped me? I didn't see one person stand up and say, hey, Barack Obama helped me in Chicago. I think all that was just a front. Obama didn't do nothing for nobody. He didn't do nothing for nobody, especially when he's in office. He didn't do nothing for so-called black and brown people. He did something for certain groups. He gave money to a lot of so-called black universities. But what did he do to help poor people who are struggling with their education and want to go to college? What did he do for them? What did he do to help those who want to gain their indigenous identity? Nothing. We need to have political representation if we're going to have real change in our communities, in our lives. That's what the Asian people got. That's what white Americans have. That's what Asian Americans have. They have real political representation standing for them, speaking for them in Congress. And that's what we need to start before we make any other change, even though there's other changes that need to be made, because the super delegates and the delegate thing that's a corrupt from the rooter to the tutor. But beside the presidential thing, just in general, we need political representation, which we do not have. So that being said, I'm going to end it on that note. I will be back, not this Sunday. I mean, not the coming Sunday, but the Sunday after next. I do a show every other Sunday. I will be doing a podcast every other Sunday. So I'll be back the Sunday after next, and I will be doing a part 2. Why should we vote, people? Why should the Niiji vote? When I say the Niiji, I'm talking about the American Indian. Why should American Indians vote? Why should so-called black and brown people vote? The copper-colored people of America. Huh? Why should we vote? Because I don't see no reason why we should be voting. You got a whole group of so-called sisters banding behind VP Carmela. What's her name? I think it's Carmela Harris is her name. She don't represent the so-called black and brown community. She's of Asian persuasion. Her mama was an East Asian Indian. Come on, people. We're supporting the wrong people. We're supporting people who don't have our best interests in mind or at heart, let alone at heart. For us to make changes, people, we literally have to start with ourselves, our children, and we have to have political representation. Or we got to just focus on ourselves. Not waste our time standing in lines voting, not wasting our time sitting at home filling out mail-in voting ballots. For what? To help them? Because they're not helping us. So that being said, I'm going to get out of here. So as always, and as I always say, may the great spirit bring us together under the wings of her peace. You heard me, people. You heard me say that right. I said the great spirit under the wings of her peace, not his. No. So may the great spirit bring us together under the wings of her peace and her love. Before I go, I got to do this one more time. Let me do this one more time.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.
I think I'm gonna end it on this note.
They not like us. 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 They not like us.
This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure. This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure. This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure. This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure. This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure. This is how we ride and roll.